On this episode of Ask the Experts, we're talking about freelance writing. Yes, for those looking to work from home, here we have Miranda Marquit. She's a freelance writer from Freelance Writer Academy. Hi, Miranda.
Hey, Rick, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, getting through it. I think all of us are just kind of getting through it.
Yeah, tell me about it. What area of the world are you in?
So I'm in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
So it sounds cold.
It is cold. It is snowing as we speak. I'm just looking out the window and it is snowing.
Yes. I lived in Winnipeg for a few years, and I remember, Manitoba, Manafrosa. It was so cold.
Yeah, Winnipeg gets colder than it does here. So.
Probably. Yeah. But yeah, I remember having like things that I don't have to do today, like turning on the car for a half an hour before going out. That's just not something that I have to deal with. Interesting. So tell me about Freelance Writer Academy.
Yeah, so basically the Freelance Writer Academy was founded last year, just last year in the midst of COVID, midst of COVID, by myself and two of my friends, Kat and Ben. Mm-hmm. And we thought, we all make six figures as freelancers. We all design the lifestyles that we want as freelancers. And so we thought we'd put together this academy. It has courses, we do coaching, we do Q&As. We have, just last night, we did a webinar on freelance writing for taxes. So we just put together a whole bunch of resources that people can come and learn about freelance writing.
Oh, that's amazing. And for those looking to work from home, especially right now, or maybe they're stuck at home and they need a second job or a side hustle. Writing is, all you need is just a computer, really.
Yeah.
Computer and somebody to write for, probably.
Yeah, that helps. It helps to have a client or two. The good news is even with all this video and audio and all the interesting things going on, written content is still very much king on the internet. So there's usually somebody who's willing to pay you to write for them.
Oh, how interesting. Now, is freelance writing the same as copywriting?
So there's freelance copywriting. There's different types of writing, right? So copywriting is a little bit different than, say, writing for a blog or writing articles or writing for a publication, right? Copywriting is generally specifically geared toward marketing. And so when you're doing copywriting, a lot of the time you're doing things like, okay, well, I'm writing email marketing copy. I am writing landing page copy. So it's different to write landing page copy than it would be to write like for a regular article, for publication, or write for somebody's blog. Landing page copy is different. So copywriting is really more about advertising and marketing and those types of things rather than like your content. I should say, like content that you would do for a blog or an article or something like that.
So if somebody was starting, working from home, doing freelance writing, what would be the first suggestion you would say to them to write about?
Oh, wow.
Like, would they be writing about their experiences, what they know, or would you focus more on making more money by focusing in a specific niche? Like, how would you?
Yes. So I think it really depends on your goals, right? I mean, with everything else, what you're looking to do, what you want to accomplish, it all depends on your goals. Now, if you would like to make money, and if you want to like make a living as a writer, the first thing you need to do is take a deep breath, look in the mirror and say, I am a sellout, and then go ahead and find something to write about in terms of money. So there are some different niches out there that are a little more profitable than others. Some of the ones that are more like, so I write primarily in the personal finance niche. So I write about money on the internet, and that's actually very profitable because you're writing about money, and money is money, right?
Yep. Sure.
Money.
Sure.
So that's fairly profitable. Interestingly enough, the pet care niche is actually, if you like animals, if you have pets, if you know how to take care of them, the pet care niche is actually one that pays pretty well. The healthcare niche, if you can write about medical advancements, if you can write about medical news, if you can do white papers related to healthcare, that actually pays pretty well also. So
interesting.
Yeah. So there's some different, So part of it is saying, okay, well, what do I know? What can I research quickly? Where can I ramp up my knowledge really quickly? And then also what niches are going to start paying? Because you kind of have to look at that combination, right? Because even in a niche, if you don't have some sort of experience or knowledge in an area, that they're not going to hire you to write about it. So there has to be kind of that balance. Although when I first started writing about money, I didn't know a lot about money. So
well, the funny thing is I when I wrote my book, I knew what worked for me.
Right.
But as a coach, as a teacher, or any of that, no, fake it till you make it, sort of thing, right? And so far, instead of getting hired out, I wrote my book because I wanted to tell the world my story, and then I started with the blog, and that's how I've been spending my time, is writing for the Financially Independent Millennial. And now this has all brought us together. So if anything, I'm not making six figures yet with the blog, but it definitely has brought a lot. I get to meet so many new people and have met so many new people these past 6 months.
And really, honestly, that's one of the best things about working online. So I am an internet dinosaur. I have been working online for 15 years. Almost 16 years now.
Yeah.
So I have been working online for almost 16 years now. So that's ancient in internet years. And but one of the most rewarding things about it has been making connections in these different communities and getting to know people. And almost anywhere I go now, I can meet up with somebody that I met online. And
sure.
I mean, that even included when my son and I went to Budapest a couple of years ago. There was somebody that I had known online for several years, and he was living in Budapest at the time. And so we met up, and it was really fun.
Cool. Yeah.
And so that's the most rewarding thing I think about doing this, is just like all of the people and the connections and the interesting things you get to, just interesting people you get to meet. And places you get to go eventually again someday.
Well, you will. I mean, I equate the pandemic with running a marathon.
Fair.
And the whole thing, getting prepared, the psychology. I think right now we're like in the last 5 or 6 miles. We're tired. We don't want to hear about this anymore. I've never run a marathon, but if I did, I know that that I'd be like counting. And I think we're almost at the end. It's just, we're really tired. We all want to go back to our normal lives, doing the things that we do. For me, it's traveling, being on cruise ships. That's what I love. And I can't wait for it. But in the meantime, I'm using, my time to do this kind of stuff. And it's equally as fun.
This stuff is fun. Yeah. I do like doing the thing. So
definitely. So, Freelance Writer Academy. So, what would is this a paid course?
Yeah. So we offer different paid courses starting from beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And then with each course also comes, like, we have coaching, like a one-on-one coaching session that you get. We have, like I said, we have monthly group Q&As where you can ask us anything. And then we also have quarterly webinars where we bring in outside experts to talk about different aspects. So like we had one webinar on how to find gigs using social media. That's actually a whole thing. Many of us actually find gigs using Twitter, using LinkedIn, and using Facebook. I've actually gotten a few gigs just on Twitter.
And would you be writing for blogs or for news outlets? Like who hires writers? When they're like I always thought like a writer is in 1 out of 100 in an office, but we're talking about freelance writing, people who are in their basements like you, working from home. Who hires people like you?
Technically, I sit on my bed. Technically, I do my writing from my bed,
It's not
but
bad.
no, it's not bad.
No?
No, or my swingy chair. I have a swingy chair. Anyway, no, but yeah, lots of people hire writers. So because writing is and the written word is so important to online content marketing right now, right? Search engine stuff, writing, like everybody needs content. Like you write a blog post and a company puts up a blog post and well, they need a blog post the next day and the day after that and the day after that.
Sure.
So there's always this need for content. And so, yes, there's a lot of different types of places that hire people. So major publications hire freelancers to do the blog portion, like their online portion. Companies like, for instance, my work appears on the TD Ameritrade ticker tape blog.
Cool.
So like a broker like TD Ameritrade, they have consumer facing content on their blog. Do you like how I use marketing terms, consumer facing?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yeah. Sounds very authoritative.
Very professional.
Yes.
No, anyway, but no, they have content on their blog meant for people to read. And so, so they always need people to fill that out. Then there are the websites that do the affiliate marketing, right? That make a lot of their money off of when people buy products and services through their blogs, and they always need content as well. So there are lots of websites like that you can actually write for. And then you still can, of course, you can still write for newspapers or magazines. I still have a column that I occasionally do in the local newspaper. I mean, I have a journalism degree, so they let me do that sort of thing. But you don't need a journalism degree. You don't need an English degree. You don't need a special degree to do this. Mm-hmm. It makes it easier for me to meet deadlines, and because I was trained that way. But if you like writing and you're reasonably good at it, you can do this.
Right.
I should not say anybody, because not anybody could do this. You have to like writing and you have to be reasonably good at it.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
But yeah.
I think, yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of places, and there are lots of places to look for jobs. We actually have a free resource from the Freelance Writer Academy. Just like that's kind of a starter kit on where to look for jobs. And I will send you that link so that you can share it. I don't know.
Yes, I'll put it actually in the description below.
Oh,
that's
perfect.
A great idea.
So I'll make sure I send you that link so that you can grab that and share it with people. And it's just, like I said, it's not like a big list or anything, but it's just like a small starter pack of here's how you start looking for freelance writing gigs. So I'll get that for you so you can put that on the description.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So at the Academy, do you also provide like a job board or a way to connect freelance writers to organizations?
Yeah. So we have, as part of Academy membership, we do have a private Facebook group, and we post personal job leads in there. Okay. So, So, we have, like I said, this free resource that I'm going to share has a list of some of the best websites where you can go to look at job boards. We don't have our own job board, but we show you where you can go to find those job boards. But then we also have, a lot of the time, we get asked to do work that we don't have time for, or that we're not interested in, or that maybe is because, like, as you go through freelancing and freelance writing, you start out at kind of a lower pay rate, just like any other job. But as you get more experience, as you become better, as you apply for different gigs, you can start raising that rate, right? You can start asking for more money.
Can you give me some examples of what? So let's say, for example, I decide today I want to become a freelance writer. I'm working from home or from my bed, and I want to get started. So 2 questions. 1, how much can I get paid for an article that I write or a story that I write? And how fast can I get a job?
Okay, yeah. So both of those questions, the answer is it depends, because really, I know it's the worst, right? But no, really, freelance writing is still kind of the wild west of the internet. There's a big range. So if you want to get a very fast job and you want to get paid quickly, then actually you have to go for that kind of lower paying work. And so you would go to like a website like Text Broker or something like that, or you would go to a website, like even like Upwork or something, where you would get out there and you don't get paid as much. You get maybe 5 to 10 cents per word on average, and you're not going to get paid very much. Now, if you go to like a job board, like maybe ProBlogger or Writing Jobs, then you might find gigs that you can apply for, but it might take you a few days to get those. But those might pay better. You might end up getting between 20 and 30 cents per word.
So all I have to do is wait like maybe a couple of days, just, polish up my resume as I'm waiting, put a nice photo, not in my pajamas.
Right. And those gigs, but those gigs are a little bit harder to get. You're going to have a harder time getting that. And then once you get to a certain point where you're applying for more specialized work, or people are coming to you, you can have higher rates, anywhere between 50 cents per word and $1 per word.
Wow.
So it really kind of depends on where you're at in the cycle, where you're finding your gigs, and everything else. So one of the things that we do in the Academy in our Facebook group is, okay, well, here's this entry level position. You're probably only going to get like $75 per article. Here's the information for it. Let me pass you along. And actually, I just connected one of our students she actually has done grant writing in the past. And I actually connected her with somebody who was looking for a grant writer. They came to me and said, hey, do you know somebody who can write grants? And so one of my students, I said, oh, let's connect her with our student. And so I did. And hopefully she's going to be paid to do this grant writing. So really ours is more of a, we get to know our students, and then we can pass on. For instance, Kat got a job lead from a guy who runs a site, and he specifically came to her and said, do you have any students in the Academy that would like to write for my site?
Cool.
And so she posted it up in our private Facebook page and private Facebook group and said, hey, if you would like to write for this website, let me know and I'll pass you along and we can get you in the running for this website. So really for us, it's not so much of like having this massive job board. It's more about being able to have that personal touch where we can connect you, because we've gotten to know our students. We can connect you with these very specific opportunities that come our way, so that you're not spending your whole time. Because I mean, to some degree, all of us freelance writers, we've done our time making crappy pay on crappy websites. We've all done our time. And so you're still going to probably have to do a little bit of that, but we try and like make it so that you don't have to rely entirely on that. And we can kind of connect you on a personal level with a little bit better opportunities.
Can you use something like SEO to help bump up your skills? And can you charge more if you have this skill?
Yeah. So one thing you have to realize is right now, if you are writing on the internet, just about everybody expects you to have some very basic best practices SEO knowledge. Like they don't expect you to be an expert. They don't expect you to like do strategy or anything, but they do expect you to know that when they give you a keyword, you need to use it, X number, 4 to 6 times in the copy. You need to use it in a subhead. You need to be cognizant of making sure that it flows well, and that works well in the copy. So most of them expect writers to have some degree of just knowledge of best practices. So you want to make sure that you are, you at least have that basic best practices knowledge so that you can use that. Now, as far as charging more, in general, they have that's something you can actually do as a freelance person, is SEO strategist. And that's completely different from being a freelance writer. That's completely different from doing that. And it's a completely different pay situation, and it's a completely different job description. And if you are a good SEO strategist, that's a completely different thing that you should be charging lots of money for. So yeah, as a freelance writer, that basic SEO knowledge is great, and you will need to have it, but you don't need to be a strategist. You don't need to be an expert at it, because I guarantee you they're probably paying for SEMrush, they're paying for RFs, or they're paying for those things. Plus they have somebody who's actually paid on their team to do that SEO strategy, especially if it's a large website. They have they have somebody that's what they do all day long. And that's what they're paid to do all day long. So as a writer, if you want to be able to charge a premium for that SEO stuff, then really you shouldn't be a freelance writer. You should just develop that SEO strategy piece and then just do those services, because you could get paid a lot for that.
Got it. Well, then if SEO is not the right way, what else could somebody do aside from just writing lots of articles? What can somebody else do to get to that six figure a year sort of take home?
Yeah. So the things that you can do that can make you more valuable and help you increase your rate. So first of all, having a niche. So we talked about that a little bit earlier. If there's something that you are particularly expert in, or that you know well, or that you go into this niche, you're going to get paid better. If you are a niche writer and you specialize in something, then you can get paid higher than if you're just like a general utilitarian writer, right? A lot of the time, just like a general utilitarian writer who's just writing short keyword articles and just can crank out just about anything, you get paid less per article in general. And so if you can niche down and pick a specialty and somebody is looking for that specialty, then that can help you bump up your rate a little bit. Experience helps you bump up your rate a little bit. So the longer that you've been writing, the longer that the more clips you have, the more examples you can show, that can bump you up a little bit. An ability to be a good interviewer. So there are different types of content, right? Some content, they don't require interviews. It's just very straightforward. But if you can interview somebody, if you can do that and you interview people and include experts in your articles, then you can bump your price up as well. I charge a different rate. Like if you expect me to do primary research, like if I'm going to have to go through the the National Bureau of Economics and go through their papers and look through stuff, or if I'm going to have to interview an expert, I charge a premium. I charge more for that type of work than I do if I just can sit down and just write something straight out. So that can bump up your price. Another thing too is if you have certain credentials in your area. For instance, I have a freelance writer friend who is a registered nurse. And because she is a registered nurse, she charges a premium in the healthcare freelance writing.
Right. Okay.
So when she's writing, she writes for healthcare, she writes for different healthcare websites and different healthcare trade publications. And because she is a registered nurse and she is working on getting her nurse practitioner, she gets paid more because she has those credentials and she's an expert. I've started getting paid more since I finished my MBA. So I finished my MBA. And now I'm charging just a small little premium for the fact that, now I have a financial sort of credential, but a credential that people can look at and say, oh, yeah, that's related to money. So she writes about money. So a little bit more. So if you have some sort of credential or experience that way, that can help a lot as well.
Miranda, this is incredibly good advice. Have I forgotten anything about freelance writing? Because I know that lots of people are at home right now. They want to work from home. They want to write because otherwise they wouldn't be watching this video. Any other advice you can give them?
Well, the most important thing is to get started. And I think a lot of people, having a blog is really important. I actually didn't get my own blog until I had been writing for about 5 years. And I didn't have like a true home on the internet until, but if I had to go back, I would start that home on the internet much earlier. Because it's a place for you, if you want to develop a niche, if you want to do that, it's a place for you to kind of work on that. It's a place for you to practice. And when you're first starting out and people are like, send us a link to something you've written, if you have a blog and you've written for that blog, you can send them a link.
That is great advice.
And so that's one of the things that I find is most helpful is just having that blog. And I don't update my blog as much as I should, but it's still one of the number one places that people see my writing and come to me. And then also when you do start writing for other people, think of a title that's kind of keywordy, right? So when Miranda Marquit, freelance writer, right? Like really seriously,
sure.
Like freelance writer or freelance financial writer, right? So I write about money. So freelance financial writer. I want to make sure that I've got that in there, like on my LinkedIn profile. Like your LinkedIn is another big place where I get a lot of work. And that's because I use those kinds of keywords and kind of optimize that LinkedIn profile to show that I'm a writer. I'm a freelance writer. I write about money, and it's like freelance financial writer.
Do you post articles on, I'm not talking about sharing, but do you post articles on LinkedIn?
No, I just share. Things I've written.
Okay.
So that's the other thing. Is another thing you can do is, now you don't want to get too into sharing on social, because that's, again, another like value add that you can do. But I like to try at least share the things that I've written for clients. I try and share them at least once, like each article at least once somewhere, either on Twitter or Facebook or on LinkedIn, just so that there's a little bit of extra value and everything else. But you don't want to get into like sharing a ton of stuff from clients' social media unless they're actually paying for it. There are clients who will say, okay, I'll pay you.
So some clients will pay for promotion.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
There are clients that are just like, hey, I'll pay you X dollars to write this article, and then I will pay you another X dollars if you will promote it, if you will tweet it out 3 times, share it once on Facebook, and then put it on LinkedIn. Like, so they'll have things like that where if you will promote it more, for that to work, you kind of have to have a bit more of a social media following. For me, it works well on Twitter. I don't have a huge Twitter following, but I have about 14,000 followers on Twitter. And so that's enough for me to be able to be like, hey, if you want me to share this out more than one time on Twitter,
it's worth an extra
for it. And so that's one of the things that works as well. So, having that piece there, really realizing that, as a writer, the main thing you're doing is providing the content, and it's up to them to decide what to do with it. But if they want extra services, you can add those extra services. So, I have one client that I'm writing for, but they said, oh, we'd like for you to podcast as well. So I'm like, great. How much are you going to be paying me to like co-host your podcast with you? And they're paying me to co-host the podcast.
No, that's great.
And so yes, as a freelancer, freelance writer, it's a really good idea to like sit down and kind of map that out and say, okay, what services can I provide on top of the writing, but how much am I going to charge for those? Because there's just so much. And it's the same thing too. Like, I've had some clients be like, oh, well, we want you to find images. Well, that's great, but I'm a writer, and if you want images, then you're going to have to up your article rate, right? You're going to pay me to find those images. And also, P.S., I want access to your image library if I'm going to look for images, because I'm not paying for access to getting images just for you. Like, so.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
So
never thought of that.
So you kind of have to think through this stuff, because there's a lot going on right now, and a lot of them are trying to kind of push that. And then finally, another thing too is, you get your blog and you're offering your services. I never publish a rate card. I never publish how much I charge, because I negotiate that on an individual basis. And I also want to be able to raise my rates on the new clients. Like, the easiest way to raise your freelance writing rate is to charge the next guy more. And so, so I never publish my rates, because I want to be able to, when somebody comes to me with an inquiry and say, how much? Well, okay, so if let's say I'm charging $450 for an article, and the next guy comes to me and like, hey, how much are you charging for an article? Well, I quote that guy $500. And so
it's all based on supply and demand, right? I mean, if you have no business, then maybe it's going to go down on price a little bit.
Right, exactly. When I start feeling like I have a lot of clients and I'm like, ugh, I start raising my rates on the next guy that asks. And if I get, that higher rate, then I can drop one of the clients at the lower end of the rate scale and just be like, hey, sorry, at the end of this month. Yeah. And I try and give like any other job, I try and give at least a couple of weeks notice. Say, hey, I'm going to, halfway through the month, hey, I'm, at the end of this month, I'm probably not going to renew. Would you like some recommendations for writers? And then of course I can recommend somebody from the Freelance Writer Academy. So yeah.
Great. Well, Miranda, this has been a lot of information. I appreciate it. And actually, if if it doesn't work out with the financially independent millennial, I might become a student.
Okay. We'd love to have you. That'd be fun.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining. And I hope to chat with you again soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Take care.